All right, well, Southern Sipper here. We're going to pour the concrete countertop that goes in the wet bar. To save the boredom of showing how I built the form and all that bit, all that has been done, but essentially the sides are melamine, the bottom is a piece of blue insulating foam. Normally I'd use melamine for the whole thing, but I went on a bit of a cost-cutting affair. I didn't have enough melamine for the bottom, so you can use the blue foam just as well, but make sure you peel the membrane. And the reason for that is when you put WD-40 on it as your release agent, it causes the membrane on the foam to detach and wrinkle, and that's kind of a pain to get polished out. Now you can see the round piece in the middle with the bricks on it. That's where the sink's going to go. So we'll pour around that, or I'll just knock that out when it's done. And we've added pea gravel, and we bought sheets of tile. Do me a favor, sweetheart. Hold up one of those sheets of the flat rocks. This is this. You just buy this.
Sheet.
We can't see you.
Okay.
And we bought those. It's for, you know, doing backsplash or even flooring or in the shower or whatnot. And pluck those flat rocks out, because that was a look that we wanted. And you can't get that in an ordinary bag of concrete. So now it's time to mix and pour. Okay, so gonna do it. The mix, this is the easiest thing in the world. Put 5 quarts of clean, cool water in your bucket. And I don't really have a good view of it, but this is the magic stuff. It's rapid set mortar mix. It has an amazing structural load capability.
I'm trying to do it.
Down to a 1/2 inch thick. Yep, we got it.
Heavy.
This countertop is going to be 3/4 of an inch thick, and then once it's mixed, we'll add flow control, which is really the closest thing to sorcery that you'll ever see. And we bought buff cement color because we wanted to add a little bit of tan to it. This rapid set is really just as plain gray as gray can be. So here we go. So I've got 5 quarts of clean water, and I'm going to dump the entire contents of said bag. And this stuff is like it lives up to its name. It's rapid set, so you don't have an awful lot of time to work. They make another product along with the flow control called set control that gives you more time, but I'm not going to use it.
We're adding the color now.
Good. Get the flow control, yeah.
I can still add more color if I want to, right?
Yeah, let this stuff, this flow control is going to start to thin this out.
It's amazing how it thins it out. There it goes. If you
There
can
it
see
is. All right, that's probably good.
Yeah. Go. Tell me where you want me to get to.
This is much easier
Good.
with it low.
Yeah.
All right, will you get my bucket scraper?
Yeah. Bucket scraper.
Reach in there and just drag anything liquid out.
Yeah. Just on the edge, right? Not all the way underneath.
All the way underneath. Everywhere that hammer will fit. Okay, so it's poured, been adequately tapped to knock out any air bubbles.
I have got,
You know, I ran the little board over it just to, as a screed to, you know, level the bottom out. But what you're looking at is the bottom. So that doesn't really matter if it's got some of that, you know, some trowel lines. And I couldn't find my trowel, so that's actually a grout float that I was using. But that's that. Now we wait. And once it starts to dry or kick or whatever you want to call it, which it doesn't take this stuff long, it's rapid set, it lives up to its name, we're going to want to keep it wet for an hour. Okay, so it's been about half an hour since we poured, and our mortar mix is starting to kick. I don't know how well this is going to show up on the video, but you can tell when you start to see these lighter areas in. Also, here's another way, you know, and this thing is screaming hot. But I mean, that's kind of the magic of the rapid set. So what we want to do now is keep it wet for the next hour. Now I just have a spray nozzle set on mist, and I'll come out here every few minutes and just give it a light misting, and that'll be that. See you in an hour. Apparently we had some technical difficulties, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. We filmed flipping the form over and pulling the countertop out, and I don't know what happened to that, but it just didn't turn out. So, and then I thought I had done a better job of documenting the polishing of the countertop, but I did a really crappy job of that. So here's a brief explanation of what you're about to see. Is I ordered these polishing pads from Amazon. They're diamond impregnated. They go from 50 grit up to 6,000. And it's in odd increments, kind of like sandpaper. You go 50, 100, 200, 400, 800, 1,500, and 3,000 to 6,000. And when you get into once you hit that 400, it's amazingly smooth. I mean, it's just crazy. And then when you jump, you know, to 8 and then 1,500, it's a really nice countertop at that point. And then when you go from 3,000 to 6,000, it starts to just mirror shine. It's really amazing. But these things are really effective, work really well. And what I did was, with each set of pads, I just went over it twice. It seemed to work better, you know, going in little circles and covering the whole thing 2 times. And it really just didn't take that much time at all. And also did it dry. I tried it wet once, and it just seemed to cut better and work better dry. So there's that. And now, without further ado, we'll move on to the action. Alrighty, so today we're going to finish up this little DIY copper tubing faucet. Now I've said this 100 times, this is not a tutorial, because while I am perfectly capable of doing all of this, you know, I am not the best in the world at any of it. But if you're at all tool savvy, anything I've done you can do, okay? But when you're dealing with this copper tubing, you just want to make sure you clean it, ream it, front, inside and outside. You get this nifty little tool. And I've already done this once. I'm just going back over this stuff because it's been sitting a while. So I'm just going to clean it again. Make sure your fittings are clean. You want to flux inside and out, which your flux is not optional. I mean, this just will not. Just flat out will not work without it. You don't need a thick coat, just a nice layer. Now, I'm dealing with 1/2-inch pipe, and the general rule is about a half inch of solder for a 1/2-inch pipe. If you were now, this is by design the way that I did this, so I could clamp it in a vise and do this. And you want to just you want to apply the heat where you want the solder to go. So I'm going to heat the fitting, and I'm just going to every now and again I'm going to try to see if I'm warm enough back here on the back side to start melting solder. It doesn't take long. There we go. There you have it. Yeah. One of the reasons that I decided to do it like this, there was a couple of reasons. One was because I didn't want this thing hanging out over the countertop, or where the countertop was going to go before I placed it, because I knew I'd have to drop it in place and it would be in the way. The other is because it's a lot easier for me, because I mean I don't plumb for a living. You know, I like to tell people that I can plumb till the plumber gets there. It's just far easier for me to clamp this thing in the vise and do it here than it is for me to try to do it, you know, in tight quarters up against the wall and all that kind of stuff. And now, once again, the benefit of this vise is I can flip this thing around and let that solder run downhill instead of trying to pull it. I mean, the capillary action will pull it uphill. It's not that big a deal, but, you know, when you're just a rank amateur and you do this stuff on occasion, you just try to take advantage of every little thing you can to make it, you know, just a bit easier on yourself. There it is. That pig is done. So one thing I failed to mention was that you know, it's solder. I mean, the flux is an acid, so You're supposed to go back and clean up all your joints, and that's where I'm headed right now. Okay, so it's finished. Probably won't get that plugged in tonight. I'll work on that and the sink drain this weekend, and then the wet bar is functional. All right, and here it is, the wet bar. It's, as I stated earlier, it is now functional. Is it finished? No. I've got, on that wood framework, I've got, you know, a little spit and polish to do on that. You know, up above here on this wall, I'm going to do some shelving, you know, and down that side wall. Meant to record the sink installation, kind of forgot, but it's difficult in this tiny little space. But this countertop just turned out fantastic. It really is kind of the star of the show. But it turned out, you know, better than I had hoped it might. We played around with the river pebbles, and I mean, and some pea gravel in there, and it just looks great. I mean, we're super happy with it, and you know, we've already made some coffee here, and so next up is to mix up some cocktails. The faucet, it turned out it's exactly what I was trying to accomplish. I may or may not polish that up. It's doubtful. But anyway, there it is. Back up, get one last full-on look at that. Okay, so now that we're done, I just thought I'd share a couple of things. First, I said it 100 times, this was not a tutorial. This was just kind of a fun thing, you know, for me to add to my channel. It's a focus mainly on beverages, and there'll be a lot of beverages prepared in here before this is all over with. Number two, I am not a professional at any of this. It's not what I do for a living, but I'm a pretty handy guy. So, and there are times I'll sell myself a tad short on what I can and can't do. And I jumped in and tackled this thing full on, and it all turned out great. So, if you're at all tool savvy, don't be afraid of jumping in a project like this. It's just not that difficult. If you're handy at all and thinking about doing it, do it. You can't screw it up. The concrete was super easy. Wasn't my idea. I stole it. There's a YouTube channel. It's called Michael Builds. I'll include a link to his channel in the description. He gives a far better tutorial on how to handle the red, I always want to say ready mix, but it's not, it's rapid set. That really is the key to this type of countertop, is using rapid set mortar mix. And you can add any sort of aggregate or whatnot that you want, or some dye. You can really get creative with your countertop or tabletop or whatever you want to make. It really is a really nice project to get involved in. Given all of that, you know, I bought the polishing pads from Amazon, and an inexpensive variable speed polisher from Harbor Freight. You're going to want to use one of those. The pads will fit on your angle grinder if you have one, but they're recommended at like 5,000 RPMs or something like that, and your average angle grinder runs something like 13,000. So probably not a good plan to run them at that particular speed. So grab yourself an inexpensive polisher from Harbor Freight. The one I bought performed admirably. It's going to do some more. My wife already has a couple of more projects in mind. And as always, even when I'm not drinking in the videos, please enjoy your adult malted beverages responsibly.